welcome to the SVG-TV news for Friday, September 3rd. I'm Khalil Kato with the details. President of the Public Service Union, Elroy Boucher, maintains that trade unions in the country have a right to protest and that they have since sent a follow-up letter to the Commissioner of Police, Colin John, indicating such. In two letters dated August 25th and 26th, the General Secretary of the PSU wrote to the Commissioner about their intention to engage in a procession around Kingstown on September 9th and to engage in a demonstration in front of the Kingstown Vegetable Market, Paul's Avenue, and Whitechapel Road from September 7th to 10th. In his response to the PSU's letters, the Commissioner outlined certain conditions stipulated in the Public Order Act, Chapter 396 of the Laws of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Revised Edition 2009, and said that due to the provisions in Sections 7 and 10 of the Act, the public meeting by the PSU at these locations on the said dates is prohibited. In a telephone interview with SVG-TV News, Boucher said the Commissioner has clearly misinterpreted the Public Order Act and it is being dealt with by the union's lawyers.
Public Order Act contravenes our Constitution as it relates to freedom of association and assembly, and the union, it's a trade union or trade union. The Act itself does not apply to the trade union because trade unions are a special body advocating on behalf of workers and have that sort of freedom to demonstrate on behalf of the working class. And our lawyers are of the view, and I've heard other legal views, that the Public Order Act, which for the purpose of which, based on the Act itself, has to do with political objects, private persons, or military, or other associations of military character. The trade union does not fall in that category. And so these prohibitions should not apply to the trade union movement.
Meanwhile, the union convened a meeting last evening where the membership was to vote on whether to engage in next week's industrial action as planned, even after the police commissioner said it was prohibited. Boucher said the vote did not take place as planned. However, they are hoping to complete the process tonight.
It's to be continued on Saturday night because we are at the point where a decision regarding the activity of demonstration started but was not completed. That voting started but it was not completed. So that will be completed on Saturday evening around between 7 and 8. The membership will decide whether to demonstrate and where they will demonstrate.
The PSU has a membership of more than 1,300. In light of the planned industrial action next week by the union and nurses, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment has announced a number of changes in the operations at clinics and hospitals during the period of September 8th to 10th. The minister said regular district doctor clinics will not be held at health centers island-wide for the period, and persons with existing appointments for these clinics are asked to call their health centers to reschedule. Only emergency services will be offered at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital and the Modern Medical Diagnostic Center in Georgetown. The ministry said emergency services can also be accessed at the Levi Latham Health Center and the Chateaubriand Smart Hospital, and there will be no regular elective surgeries or outpatient clinics. Persons are asked to call to be advised and reschedule their appointments. Hemodialysis services will, however, continue at the Evesham Health Center, and COVID-19 exit screening services and vaccination services will continue at all facilities. The ministry reassures the nation that it remains committed to providing all healthcare services essential to life and healthy living. Opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday has expressed concern with the manner in which the police executed their duties in looking for the party's General Secretary, Tyrone James, who was later charged in relation to last month's protest in capital Kingstown. Outside the magistrate's court yesterday, the opposition leader said it is worrying to know the way things are being done, which is uncalled for.
This entrance into the compound and the building of the Democratic Party occurred, and for what purpose? And, you know, what was relayed to me the more I think about it, the more disturbing it gets, because basically police officers who are armed entering into the office of an opposition political leader, it raises a lot of concerns and worries about the propriety of the actions of the police. You know, they had reached up the stairs almost outside the office of the leader of the opposition until a member of staff spoke with them. This is a phone call to the office, might have been helpful. What do you think Cameron was going to do? Run off and go somewhere? These kinds of actions, the overreach on the part of the police, the seeming, emboldened actions in terms of how they are going to approach persons who are perceived to have taken part in the demonstration.
Dr. Friday questioned the timing of the visit to the party's headquarters by the police, which he said sets a bad precedence.
It shows an overreach on the part of the police, but the intention, if it is to discourage and to intimidate people, it's not going to work, because the people are saying enough is enough, we've gone too far, this is not the kind of St. Vincent and the Grenadines that we inherited, and it's certainly not the one we want to leave for our children. Well, the member staff who interacted with them is somebody who's very experienced, and it was able, the interaction, from what I gather, wasn't very long, but, she essentially told him Mr. James was not present and she didn't know when he was coming back, and then they left, and apparently after that they went to his home. But I mean, to have a truckload of police officers with assault rifles and SSU and Black Squad and so forth, looking for the General Secretary of the New Democratic Party, that is in itself, again, just think about that image. That's the General Secretary of the New Democratic Party. And the police are looking for him to charge him for involvement in a protest action that is constitutionally protected. And there are other persons who have been involved in much more serious matters and are simply not, they haven't had visits from the police.
In police news, the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force issued a wanted bulletin today that should be a wanted person bulletin today for Ronald Christopher Descent, also known as Chris or Bird of Mount Pleasant. Police say they are carrying out investigations into several reports of burglary where the subject is a person of interest. If seen, you're asked to approach with caution and to contact any police station or the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of crimes at telephone number 456-1339 or 457-1211 extension 4816, or the officer in charge of the CID CRO MCU at 456-1810 or 457-1211 extension 4838. Calls, the police say, will be treated confidentially. Caribbean Airlines is expected to resume non-stop flights between St. Vincent and the Grenadines and New York on October 20th. In a statement, CAL said services BW552 and BW553 will originate and end in Trinidad on Wednesdays to give customers the option of an additional connecting service to and or from New York and Trinidad. CAL said the new schedule is designed to facilitate early morning departures out of Trinidad, St. Vincent, and New York. CAL said customers can verify the entry requirements and other important travel information for any destination through its website, as well as to make appointments for COVID-19 tests. The Sugar Mill Academy is one of the few schools that achieved a 100% pass rate at this year's Caribbean Primary Exit Assessment, or CPEA, with 3 of their students in the top 10 and the others with commendable results. The school's head teacher said that they owe their success to the cooperation of the teachers, students, and parents. We get more in this report.
It was a celebratory mood at the Sugar Mill Academy on Thursday for teachers, parents, and students after they learned of the students' outstanding performance at this year's CPEA. The 3 students of the school who placed in the top 10 are Celia Gonzalez, Aziel Boston, and Alexander Cummins. Principal of the school, Liz Cordes, said it was expected of the students to be in the top 10, and they are proud of all their students as the school achieved 100% pass rate.
For us, the things that we instill here from kindergarten, the ability to adapt to change, to be leaders and teamwork, it all came out over the last year. It was just an exceptional group of kids who brought forth all of the values that they have been that have been instilled in them at Sugar Mill Academy is that over the years, Sugar Mill consistently performs well across the board with what we call quality passes.
Grade 6 teacher Hazel Agard said the parents, teachers and students worked hand in hand, which was a receipt for their success.
Is that they look out for each other's success. So it wasn't about an individual or selfish being.
Absolutely.
It was everybody looking out for each other. We communicated via Hangouts. So when I pose questions and like some of them do not understand, their classmates would respond, okay, this is what has to be done, this is what is expected of you.
2 of the top students of the school are currently out of state. Celia Gonzalez, who placed first for the girls and 3rd overall, and Alexander Cummins, who placed 6th overall. We, however, was able to speak with Cummins via Zoom and his excited mother.
Excited about it. The results were quite good, obviously. I'm happy, proud of myself, proud of my teachers to represent my school.
My only child, so all about our dreams and everything. So they're really very happy. He came into Sugar Mill in grade 5 actually, because we moved to St. Vincent recently.
The other student of the school who placed 4th overall is Aziel Boston. She and her twin, Azriel, are happy with their results. Azriel also got a place at the girls' high school, which she was hoping for.
I was extremely happy and nervous to get mine because I thought I wouldn't get placed in such a good place. And I was thinking I wouldn't go to the same school as my sister because me and my sister are like magnets. And I was very happy. And in the same school. I'm being a judge on a family court, but that's what I have in mind because I just want to hear children and their voice.
Great. What about you?
I'm thinking of being a teacher because I like teaching a lot and I like teaching to little children.
17 students of the Sugar Mill Academy sat this year's CPEA. This is not the first time that the school had multiple students placed in the top 10. For SVG-TV News, Larissa Pogsley-Kidd.
As of Monday, August 30th, 561 people remain in evacuation shelters. This is about 500 less than the number that was recorded last week. On radio yesterday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said 28 shelters are still active, of which 20 are schools. The Prime Minister said it is important to get the schools empty as the Ministry of Education wants to meet the target date for the start of the new academic year for face-to-face classes.
24 last week, so they're coming down day by day, sweet Jesus. There are 87 primary and secondary schools, 26 secondary and 80 and 61 primary. So if we have 20 still there, it means that 67 are available for work to be done on, or in the case of the temporary schooling facilities which we're building out at Arnesville, and the one for Sandy Bay Secondary up at Mount Young, near Black Point area, and of course what we're doing in respect of the school over some alternative accommodation in Beckway for the Beckway Community High School. And we're trying our very best to meet the target date face-to-face, because that's a critical, vital public policy goal to have our children go back face-to-face.
Some schools are involved in the face-to-face recovery, learning, emotional and psychosocial support program, or ROLES, which involve students who are at the exit level of primary and secondary school. Prime Minister Gonsalves further outlined the government's plans for persons who are remaining in shelters.
Old and infirm, suffering from dementia and the like. Right now, if you go up Orange Hill, Mr. Simpson's house, the one where he's married to Mr. Barnard, he's now dead. He's married to Mr. Barnard's daughter. That house right now, Braxa is fixing it up. We have 2 contractors working on it. In another 2 weeks or so, maybe a little more than 2 weeks, I told them that they must push to let they do even overtime. They have to put in bathroom facilities upstairs and so on and so forth. I'm told that that could hold about 40 persons, but maybe 30 very comfortably. That would be under the suzerainty, under the rulership of the Louis Burnett Home. And we'll hire more staff.
Meanwhile, PM Gonzalez says that of the 406 persons who the government provided accommodation for in guest houses and hotels, 97 still remain.
We try and most of the persons who are in apartments and a few in hotels. And naturally we're spending money there so that if we get them back, and in getting persons out of the hotels where in the season which is coming up, where tourists going to need the rooms and so forth. All these things hang together, you know. We can get, if we get them in people's homes, rented. So if you have homes to rent, you could call social development, give the information there to Catherine Joyett, or anybody whom she names. She's the permanent secretary of social development, or I could call the permanent secretary by my office, Angie Williams Jackson, or I can call Bernard Morgan or whoever is it there at Red Cross.
In its continued effort to offer psychosocial support to persons affected by the volcanic eruption, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross Society, in collaboration with the Ministry of National Mobilization, today distributed over 600 children's kits to children across SVG from ages 4 to 18. The kits include a suite of books and stationery that will assist them in their preparation for the upcoming academic year. Speaking at the handing over ceremony at the Methodist Church Hall, Director of the Red Cross, Dora James, spoke about the challenges faced by the vulnerable and how the organization has been working to provide support to all.
Today, we celebrate our work in just one aspect of service to our country, and that is in child protection and gender inclusion. And more specifically, the thousands of persons we served and are still serving as a result of the volcanic eruption, Hurricane Elsa, the heavy rains just about 2 weeks ago, Zika, dengue, and COVID. As we reach out in a non-discriminatory way, we are reminded of our many vulnerabilities. The institution of the family has been severely impacted. Livelihoods have been lost. Homes damaged or destroyed. Nations or national infrastructure impacted, consequently affecting family movements, networking, and activities.
Operations Manager James Bellamy says as a representative of the International Federation, he is impressed with the work that the SVG Red Cross has been doing in the country.
I also want to say this is not the only thing that's happening, of course, with PGR. Of course, this is something that's nice. We're able to give you something in terms of a kit for children, but it's also something that we try and look at in every other aspect of our programming. So we're trying to include people of disabilities, include people of different gender, make sure that people are not left behind when it comes to support through house repairs, support to people to move out of the shelters and go back home, to support that we have with cleaning up and you know, getting people to move back to their homes now that the roads are cleared. We're still working with families, trying to get them to clear the ash away and looking for other ways to support them as well. So this is just one small aspect of what's actually happening.
Director of Child Protection Services in the Ministry of National Mobilization, Gemma Alexander, expressed appreciation to the International Federation of the Red Cross and the SVG National Society of the Red Cross for their generous donation of the 600 school kits to 200 vulnerable families.
Is integral to promoting equity in society. Among other things, it can break the intergenerational cycle of poverty, creating opportunities for further education and promote gender equality. The provisions of grade-appropriate basic school stationery will provide each student the tools to learn with them. It will also support families facing difficulties in providing their children with these needed items as well as provide some incentives for students to continue attending school. Furthermore, it enables the ministry to deliver on its mandate to protect children's rights, help meet their basic needs, and expand their opportunities to reach their full potential. The start of a new academic year is a challenging time for vulnerable students and their
Country coordinator of the Red Cross, Decima Hamilton, spoke about the vulnerable communities that the organization has been lending support to over the years.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross Society is actually engaged with 3 vulnerable communities. They are Paget Farm in Bequia, Bocamant on the leeward side, and Magam Overland on the windward side. In the course of this project, we're actually trying to do the very same thing that Glenda and her team are doing this morning. We are building capacities. When the Director General spoke, she referred to the 7 fundamental principles of the Red Cross, one of which was the business of humanity.
On Wednesday, the UWI seismic research team here in SVG, along with the RFA Wave Night team, completed the installation of the seismic station at the summit of the La Soufrière volcano. Due to the eruptions of the volcano, some of the equipment at the summit was destroyed, and on a recent program on radio, lead monitoring scientist, Professor Richard Robertson, said they were unable to reinstall the monitoring device by trekking up to the summit. However, the RFA Wave Night team, with their helicopter supported the monitoring team to install the equipment.
So in real time, continuously, we will get these, what I like to call squiggly lines, these lines that are really indicative of how the earth is shaking or not shaking. And what we would expect is that when you have a lot of shaking of a particular kind, it's indicative of some sort of earthquake activity and therefore some sort of magma moving through. So the seismic instrument that is there would give you a continuous reading of the shaking of the ground. The other instrument that we have there is also continuous, but that one is perhaps processed in a little bit more delay. That's a ground deformation station where we have a GPS which stands for Global Positioning System, a GPS antenna which is receiving satellites from signals from orbiting satellites, and it's able to precisely locate itself, its position, the position of that pin, that mark on the ground, very precisely. And what that allows us to know is if the volcano is changing shape, so deformation of the volcano.
Giving an update on the volcano, Professor Robertson said the seismic activities remain the same. However, more lahars or mudflows continue to be recorded.
Last week, the activity have been dominated by the lahars that we had earlier on in the week, last week, and I suspect today and the next couple of days with the weather system that's coming in, we're probably going to have some lahar activity as the rains come and wash the stuff off the mountain. And then the other major monitoring signal that we normally get is from the gas, and the gas is continuing to decrease. The last measurement we had, which was on the 26th, I think last week, Thursday, it was 185. So the trend of sort of lowering amounts of SO2 coming out or being detected is continuing, and the activity all fits within the working model that we have, that something, a discrete amount of magma came up, that the system going erupted, and it's basically that fixed set amount is essentially getting rid of all its steam, and it's done its thing. And